truth and preservation of our soul shine. I can feel it, yours and mine. Close your eyes and witness it inside. In your bones, you will know. Trust and let go, and let it flow.
On the computer. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. Today I have a beautiful soul who I just literally met about 30 seconds ago, but I already feel her energy and she's divine. Her name is Isabeau Maxwell. She's the founder and practitioner and teacher of the Sage Method, and she's a psychic medium, and I know what that feels like. And just like her energy is so vibrant that I'm just tickled that I get to interview her. So thank you so much for being on the show. Do you prefer Isabeau or Bo?
You can call me Bo for short,
Okay.
and thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just excited to hear so I today consciously for the first time I channeled a message. Now I do a modality called body talk. So I'm used to like connecting in and talking to the animal or the human and writing stuff down, but like it's for healing. It's not just for the sake of hearing a message. And so it was really new for me. And of course, it's just divinely timed that I get to talk to you about it because you've been doing this for a while. And so I want to start out with how you first became aware of your connection to the non-physical world.
That's an interesting story.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't always open. Well,
Mhm,
it's pretty straightforward there. It was 32 years old is when it really opened up for me. Before that, I was a skeptic. I wasn't like trying to prove anything wrong, right? I
mhm,
just didn't, religion, spirituality, it didn't have a role in my life. It didn't have any place in my life.
mhm.
I was a math major in college to kind of give you a perspective.
My
Yeah,
dad was
this
a high
is,
school math teacher. I know what that is.
yes, exactly. If you mix that with the fact that I'm a Taurus and a type A, yeah, this
Yeah.
intuition was not where I thought I was going, but I was 32 and my grandmother had passed away. I was on the phone with the hospice room when
Mhm,
she passed. So I was fortunate to be able to do that, but I wasn't able to be in the same location.
mhm,
And shortly after she passed, it was the middle of the afternoon, and I was standing in my living room trying to figure out what to do because I was very close to her. She was like my mom.
okay.
And she showed up right in front of me, just popped in, and she was like 70% solid. So it
Wow.
wasn't even something that I could brush off. I
Mhm.
mean, it was happening. And then she smiled and she winked at me, and then she popped out. That's like the only words I can come up with. Yeah,
Wow.
and I was startled. I was frightened. I'll be honest about it. I was frightened. And I instantly decided, I love this because it's so cute now, but I instantly decided I was hallucinating. That's grief. That's absolutely just grief. Let's This stuff doesn't happen. And that's how out of touch I was with spirituality and connection and things like this, because today I now know so many people that have had visitations and things like that. I hadn't even heard of that before. So I really went from one end of the spectrum to the other. And
Yeah.
I wanted to see her again. A couple things came through that were like, you can't ignore this.
Mhm.
So I kept exploring. I met a Tai Chi instructor and I was like, well, he'll know everything. He's the strangest person I know. And he's such a sweetheart. Yeah, he dealt with me back then. It was really fun. But he taught me, how to start tapping into my intuition, yes and no questions and things like this. And it was really, really helpful. It was really helpful. And eventually I started reading for people and communicating with my grandmother more. It took a few months for me to really kind of anchor into that.
Yeah.
But, eventually I was able to get to where I am today.
That's awesome. That is awesome because like I remember I've had four close family members die, and each one of them has visited me in different ways, starting at 10 till my dad dying. He's scattered across the universe, and I felt it. And he would like blip in and like, oh yeah, that's really cool, and then blip out. I'm like, no, 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 like a little
Come
more than
back.
that. But I dismissed it because I'm a former historian, so I was steeped in academia, and
Yep.
I can't quantify it.
Exactly. That's the
And
word.
so
That's
I've been
it.
like diving into my heart, like listening to that intuition. Like, do I know something? Do I sense something? Do I feel something that I know is true? And then my left brain is like, I want to know more. I want to know more. So I like divert it with quantum physics and like, here, go play there. Go.
Yeah.
Leave me
Yeah.
alone. I'm gonna like that way you can understand what I'm doing. And
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it took a long time for me to
yeah.
step out of that. And so you'll get this, you'll understand this when I say my courage to test it out and try to find out if it's real or not. I totally approached it like, I'm going to prove this is real, or I'm going to prove, right? And here I am today going, yeah, proof is not in the equation when it comes to trusting source. But I was like, this is what I'm going to do this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, yeah. I this was a humbling experience for me, and it helped me to kind of I realized that we're all connected. That was something that I was completely disconnected.
Yeah.
I was completely taught to be concerned about what people think and appearance and all that kind of stuff.
Mm,
I had all that programming,
yeah.
right? And so I'm really grateful today that I walked through intuitive development, because it has released so much of that, and life is just good now.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because that whole process of unwinding the programs, and I'm sensing, I don't know, but it feels like you might be an East Coaster, or you were at some point.
I was.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I grew up in Minneapolis,
Okay.
right? So it was still high paced, very city.
Mhm.
I spent a couple years, my mom decided we were going to live in some kitschy house out on the farm. I get it. So I had some time outside of it, but I would say about 17, 18 years I was a New Englander.
Yeah.
Yep. Then
Yeah.
I left
That's
there
the
back
thing.
in 2017. So I got that New England drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in it. So
You did, didn't you?
I did. I left in 2006.
There we go.
It was like Connecticut and Maine, like
Yep.
1969 to 2006. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of programming, and like starting to unwind it
Yes.
after my dad died is pretty much when I woke up, and like just that. And then I started like, oh shit, I don't know anything.
Yep.
And started going down the path of opening myself up to my spiritual gifts. And it was tough to like just realize that I was living my life for other people, and that like I took on the expectations of others as mine,
Hmm.
and allowing myself to unwind from that to like, what is my soul calling? And that's
Yep.
completely different from what I thought it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
And
say Connecticut to Maine. I was right in New Hampshire.
so yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, absolutely stunning, amazing, but the programming is really deep there.
It is. It is. There are huge. I love, because I go back there all the time because my kids are now grown and they live there. And if you need help,
Oh
someone will
yeah,
help you. You're
definitely.
never, yeah, you're not isolated or shy. There's so many incredible things about New England.
Mhm.
But I opened up intuitively in New England, in New Hampshire. And, I remember going to the voting polls 12 years ago, right?
Huh.
And the person that like ushered you to the voting booth
Mhm.
was one of my clients, and she was like, she struggled. She was
Yeah.
embarrassed that
Yeah.
anyone would know that she knew me. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, all right, I got it. Oh, you
yeah.
sweetheart. And I acted like she, I didn't know. But it is very conservative, and that's, super kind. right?
Yeah.
But weird is not in the equation. And I left New England 2017, I think, and I moved across the country to
Huh.
Portland, Oregon, because if you're going to go the opposite end of that, why not go all the way to Portland?
We missed each
And
other.
oh yeah, opposites on complete.
Well, because
And then I
I was
spent,
in Portland until 2020. So
yeah, so you know what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
very different flow. It was very easy for me to tap in.
Mhm.
And then I spent 2.5 years full-time RVing across the country.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I got to be in all these little pockets of area, and that's, you know what? That's what started my online spiritual community, because I'm like, it doesn't matter where you live, your peeps are out there.
Hmm.
Your vibe is out there,
Yeah,
and that ended up, just spreading, and it's wonderful because it's a safe place no matter where you are.
yeah, I love that. And the
Yeah.
fact that, there's I don't want to say anonymity, but there's like you can go on an online class and your family doesn't have to know about it,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
I know when I was 10, I really wanted, like my grandfather, my best friend, died, and he visited me, sat on my bed for 2 nights, and I didn't understand. And absolutely nobody in my little town had any way to help me to understand.
Yep.
And I was always looking for a mentor. Like, please, somebody show me how to pray, how to, like, connect. And I didn't have anyone because it's small town New England, and that was
Yeah.
crazy stuff. And I had two family members that had been institutionalized for depression and mental breakdown. So, like, no, not doing that route.
Yep.
Um, but they were very intuitive spiritual people too. It was just a different time period, and they didn't have the resources we have now. So, I'm grateful for the ones I've had. I wish I could have started earlier. Um,
It's a very, very common feeling. And
yeah.
yeah, when I opened up, I was in New England, and it was 2005. Yeah. And so when I first started getting the courage to tell people that I was a medium,
Mhm.
most people that would say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd say I'm a medium. Most people didn't know what that was back then.
Yeah.
So we've gone through quite a learning curve.
Yeah.
There's some things about television and pop culture that were really great, but then there's some things that are also blocking some people. So it's
Mhm.
great that it said, hey, look around the world and here's all these different things, and
Yeah.
this is possible and you're not alone with it.
Mhm.
But there is one piece of television and pop culture when it comes to intuitives, when it comes to psychics and mediums, that I think has been a little bit harmful, in that it portrays like the special factor is what I call it, that this person has the gifts,
Mhm.
and then you don't. So by
Right.
highlighting it in that way, no one's at fault here. No one's done anything wrong, but by highlighting it that way, it inadvertently has made people think, well, I don't have that. I couldn't do that. And that's so far from the truth,
Right.
because we all have a sixth sense. And if
Mhm.
we didn't have internet and parents and school schedules and everything from birth, we would all be using our intuition
Mhm.
fully.
Mhm.
And so it's a matter of just tapping back into what's already there.
Right. And that's beautiful. You mentioned media. I recently saw the second Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I thought was really fascinating is meditation was bad and opening your
Yeah.
third eye was tragic. And I was like, yeah, no,
Mm.
no, 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 that's wrong. And the third eye doesn't look like that. But okay, I'm grateful that you brought this to awareness. You just kind of twisted the message a little bit, because like when I feel connected, I'm meditating, and I feel that intuition, that connection to the divine that I am within, that comes through so much more clearly than if I'm distracting myself.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And here's the thing is, I love movies. I'm a huge movie fan. If I'm gonna relax for a night, it's in front of Netflix. Like, I am a huge fan of Star Wars, Star Trek, Matrix, like all
Mhm.
of it,
Mhm.
right? But It's the not having enough guidance around you,
Mhm.
that when the movie is kind of giving you that inkling or that idea, instead of being just what the movie should be, which is entertainment.
Mhm.
That's where I'm not talking about documentaries. I'm just talking about straight up movies.
Right, right,
Because we're looking for something.
right.
We're looking to understand what's happening to ourselves. And so if we see a hint of it in a fiction film or a fiction book, we might go, well, maybe. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that searching. It's just this is the time to have the messengers come out into the world and say, you have a direct connection. You
Mhm.
are intuitive. There's no middleman. You can just directly do this. It's going to take some work and some understanding. And it's if you stopped using your taste buds for the majority of your life and then decided to start using them again, you got to warm up to it again.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a matter of finding people in that you can create a circle with, that you can reach out to and say, "Hey, has this happened to you?" And
Yeah.
there is nothing better than hearing somebody go, "Yep, that happened to me too," and then instantly you're not alone.
The first time I had a dog come through me in a session, it was the personality of the dog, um, and the excitement of somebody being able to understand him.
Yeah.
Like, honey, no, I can't write that fast. And I'm writing
Yeah.
formulas down, and I'm like, okay, calm down. I just gotta like be patient with me. And it was all like, but it was like this flood of information,
Yeah.
because I was open as a receiver to bring, I don't do anything other than I am the conduit through which something comes through.
Yes.
I mean, and being open to that. I love watching animals integrate the sessions. It's like the coolest thing ever.
Yes.
But like, it's only because I'm open to it. Anyone can
Hmm.
do what I do. Anyone can do what you
And
do.
yeah.
It's
Anyway, everyone can do this.
right.
It's a matter of, and the taste buds is a good example. It's being
Yeah.
raised in a culture that says you can't taste anything.
Mhm.
And then when you do start tasting, how do you know what to do with it? Like
Right.
everyone, I rarely meet someone that has never had any type of intuitive experience.
Mhm.
Everyone's seen something out of the corner of their eye. Everyone has walked into a room and they knew something was wrong before they could see anything was wrong.
Mhm.
It's wired within us.
Mhm.
And we come into this world as babies very open intuitively. There's no blocks. Those
Mhm.
little kiddos are talking to grandpop, and grandpop's been gone for 10 years. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, and then in our preteen years and our teen years, we get just nailed with personal programming, right?
Mhm.
Just society this, society that. And you know what? It's part of the human experience. So I'm actually not, it's really important. I try to share with people that the human experience we should embrace.
Yeah.
We shouldn't run from it,
Mhm.
right? I still want to have my like argument with this friend and then make up and then go have like, ice cream, right? It's
Right.
have your human experiences,
Right.
but we are told it's not real. We're told it's weird. We're already trying to figure out how to not be singled out and how to not be judged. And we're trained for that. So we steer away from things that involve what we perceive as a lot of judgment. And
Right.
this is the cover that covers up the intuition. But the minute you uncover that, the minute you even start to uncover that, intuition starts to flow. And then you know who's calling before they call. You know
Right.
that you need to take an extra 5 minutes. You know these things, and you can trust them.
Yeah. Live outside of Mount Shasta for 3 years, and you have absolutely no concern about what anybody thinks of you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
I don't think it weird, but like my friends that are living in Oregon where I'm staying, they're like, yeah, you're kind of weird. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I am like just whatever, because like I got through the insecurities of being different by watching everyone in Shasta making me look normal.
Yeah.
I was
Yes,
like, I still have that New England in me, but like,
having your community, having your people
yeah.
around you who love that about
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
And by the way, being exactly who you are, goofy, weird, all of that, all out loud, is going to sort through your life in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have, so one of my life hurdles that I came in here with was my mom. She was a big hurdle, and a lot of people can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I was in my early 20s and I was starting to get these like, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? And you always have a silver car and you always have this, and so I went and I bought a yellow car. And we're talking years ago before there was colorful cars everywhere. And she looked right at me and she said, I will not get in that car. And I remember having this aha moment of like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, And I'm trying to say this with as much love, but it was one of my first aha moments of like,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Then everywhere I drive, it'll be a little bit more peaceful, and then you start finding your people. And sometimes it's an online community sometimes to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being all of your authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
following your intuition, all of that, you give other people permission to
Right.
as well. Because just like you were sitting there going, oh, I don't know if I can say this or do this, if you see someone else say it or do it, it does give you a little bit of courage
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, all right. It's why it is easy in certain areas, Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, places like that, where creativity is flowing and just
Yeah.
rich with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis, same thing. It's easier to be all of yourself,
Right.
all of your fabulous creative self, because most people are. But
Right.
if you're in a very, conservative region,
Mm-hmm.
then it can be a little bit tougher. But you
Yeah.
doing it gives other people also a little bit of bravery to be able to do it themselves.
I remember the first time I went swimming out here. We moved from Maine to Washington State in 2007. Now that's a culture shock.
Yeah.
I'm a swimmer, went in the swimming pool. Now in New England, when you get out of, the shower, you're wrapped in a towel and you change yourself in the towel. And it's this awkward dance of towel and clothes, at least until you get your underwear on, and then you can like take the towel off. So like,
Yeah.
I'm in this pool area, and women are just like drying themselves off and just stripping down, and there's naked. They take the towel off, and then they get dressed, and it's like so much easier. And I'm like, what a
Yeah.
crazy idea! Like, oh my God!
Relatively simple. Yes.
Doing that in Maine or Connecticut, like, you don't do that. But
Yes.
here it's like, oh, well, it's just easier to just like be naked and put your clothes on because then you don't have to deal with a towel. And it made so much sense, but it was like such a quantum leap of like, oh, that never occurred to me level of like simplicity because,
Yes.
it's
Yes. Exactly. It's a spectrum of comfort, and you have to find where you land on that. You have to honor it. And there are people who were raised in that environment who end up going over to New England and going, oh, phew, I'm glad I actually feel more comfortable
yeah,
not being naked. So everyone's got, the thing is that we all come down here, right? We choose our parents, we choose our location before we're born. And it doesn't always align with who our spirit is. And that is a challenge we have preset within ourselves to overcome. And in the act of overcoming that, that's where all of the human experience that we came down here to have happens. Now, on a rare occasion, somebody lands in the perfect spot. They're like, yep, this is it. My parents rock. I love this culture. This is everything, and it's awesome. 99.8 of us, that's not the case,
right,
right?
right.
And I have taught so many people at this point that I have seen them go in both directions,
Yeah.
right? Like someone that was raised completely off grid and everything else like that, just really craved living in New York City and then thrived in the middle of New York City.
Oh, wow.
So, right. And we have people that eat hamburger, and then there's on the other side of the globe, that cows are sacred.
Right.
We have to accept that there's all these little cool pockets, and all of us resonate with one or more of those pockets.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's up to you to find your way there.
Mhm.
And that's the empowering piece.
Well, for me, because I know I'm an old soul, like I come to Oregon and I cry. Like I've lived here many, many
Yeah.
lifetimes. I go to Orcas Island. I'm like, oh, this feels like home. Why does this feel like home? I love this place. It's
Mhm.
so amazing. then I go, you know, and pretty much every spot in Oregon that I've visited or lived in, I'm like, oh my God, I love this place so much. I don't know why, but I other than the fact that I've lived in different parts of Oregon in different lifetimes. And so this particular state, and Washington was part of Oregon. So like that whole chunk of the
Yeah.
United States that was, that like my heart just soars. I draw like
Mhm.
Haida artists. I'm like, why do I paint the way Northwest Native Pacific Islanders paint? I don't understand this because I've been that.
You're
And
in
that,
the energy of it. Yeah,
yeah,
you're affected by it. Yeah, everyone has their journey to find where they need to be. How do you know that you're not in that place that speaks to your soul? You're depressed. You don't have any like motivation.
mhm,
And this is a journey that almost all of us walk through at different levels. Some of us land in really difficult living situations. Some of us land in what one would think is a super cushy, rich situation, and they have huge challenges just as emotionally. Like some people who are born of they have anything and everything also struggle with trying to find out who they really are. So it comes in all different angles. And I
yeah,
think the beauty is number one, saying, am I in the right place for my soul?
yeah,
And then number two, taking the time and the allowance for yourself to find your way there. That's really where the gold is in this experience here on Earth.
I agree. Had I known about the University of Oregon when I was 18, I would have been out here way earlier. And I wouldn't go back east. So, but that's me. Yeah, I completely hear that because like, we're in this like aspects of Maine I absolutely love. My friends, lifelong friends, hands
Yep.
down. Like I'm just their kids, my kids, it's just that level of love. But the expansion for my soul of being in this lush amazingness of the Willamette Valley and feeling the ground and the trees and the rocks and the magic of the land,
Mhm.
that makes me thrive. I understand, like, and ridiculously sensitive, so I can actually talk to trees and rocks and everybody can, but
Mhm.
I happen to feel them very intensely.
Yep.
Um, I think the more we connect with the actual land and
Mhm.
ground, the
Mhm.
more we'll be able to hear the resonance within ourselves. If it's
Yes.
if it's like aligned or if it's not aligned or if it's good for now on your path, that whole level. Like I was living in weed for 3 months. I felt a shift. Like in the last month, I felt a shift in the energy. And I'm like, okay, I'm complete with that. Thankfully. It's tough living
Yeah.
near Mount Shasta.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, so here's how I would approach it is we have three bodies and different cultures talk about these three bodies in different ways all over the globe.
Mhm,
But the way that I line them up as simple as I can is we've got the physical body, which is like a vehicle. We have the spiritual body, which is our spirit. That's our soul.
mhm,
And that is the driver of the vehicle. That's the observer, right? And then we have the programming body, which is our linear mind here on earth. My name is Bo. I'm 50 years old. This is what I do, right? That's not the spirit. My
right.
identity here is not like my spirit. It's my spirit is so those are the three bodies.
Mhm,
And when that vehicle, that physical body that spirit is driving is put into the wrong town, it just doesn't run.
yeah.
It just doesn't run. And we need to take a little time to honor ourselves to figure out where is our connection
Mhm,
and try things that we haven't tried. I think that's a big part of it.
yep.
Like I said, some people, their car belongs in New York City.
Mhm.
because they need to be on this really amazing team that's putting together this project that's going to bring this whole thing out into the world that's going to shift the globe, right? So there's like all these different approaches.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you're done with your job, what is your happy place?
Mhm.
Is it Mother Earth? Is it the desert? Is it the ocean? Is it your shag carpet in the middle of your New York apartment?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We can find our true selves anywhere. And as soon as we start to find those sources that feed us, because I can hear you talking about Oregon and the trees. The thing that hit me the most when I moved to Oregon were the trees. I mean, I was instantly teared up, overwhelmed with just beautiful joy. They're big and majestic and incredible. And that was my moment where I was like, okay, I found one of my happy places. And I
Mhm.
still travel back there quite frequently. Um, but yeah, it's about finding that place that you can connect.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're wandering. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
cedar.
wandering aimlessly. Perfect
Yeah.
way to say it. Yep.
Yeah, it is wandering. Like I remember when I started being a community gardener in near, oh, what was the path? It was in Northwest. It was off of Lovejoy near the Audubon Society. There's this little garden that you can't find if you don't know it. There's a big, huge, like grandmother cedar. That's what her name is,
Yeah.
grandmother cedar.
Mhm.
And she was my guide, just being present with her. And she's, I mean, there, that's
Yeah.
her. Like, I don't have any problem with tattoos on other people. Don't really like them on me. I was guided to get this because of my connection with cedars. And she is the reason, she's not the reason, but she's the one that woke me up to my connection with cedars.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I get to bring energy between Orcas and Weed and Portland and all for all the cedars. They use me as a conduit to bring information back and forth between them. That's one of my things. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
I just feel it and I know it and I can tell because I can see how I feel how they light up when they see me. And I'm like, okay,
All right. This is it. This is one
that's
of my
it.
things.
Yeah. And it's just beautiful because like each one of us has that.
We do. And we have it in so many different forms for different people.
Yeah.
For somebody, it's an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
And, their cedar are their kids that they lift up, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you feel that calling and you feel that direction and you feel these things that you start to become connected to and that just feel like home,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you got to drive your vehicle toward them.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
And that is probably one of the scariest liberating things you can do.
Terrifying.
Mhm.
But I tell a lot of my students too, it's not the end goal, right? And we've heard this said in a lot of different motivational ways, but especially with intuition, I find this to be true, is that your intuition will start to open and you'll start to be able to use it on a regular basis when you are moving in the direction that you're supposed to go.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily when you've landed in the place and the spot and the balanced, if I could just meditate for an hour, or if I could let go of all these old triggers, or if I could, or find the right meditation center. It's not the landing that opens the intuition. It's the act of moving toward your
Right.
happy space
Right.
that actually opens up your intuitive channel. It's
Mhm.
kind of like, I'm sitting here laughing because it's inside because I'm seeing this picture of this like cute old like guy that's like up in your head. It's your intuition. And he's just like, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna take a nap. I mean, I don't know how much longer we're gonna be here. When she's ready to like start going in that direction, wake me up. And then you turn to go in that direction, and the guy goes, "Oh, okay, I'm up. All right, here we go. Ready? Take a left. Okay, now go straight. And take a right." So it's almost like your spirit and your and source and guides and loved ones and your intuitive channel all kind of perk up when
Mhm.
you're heading in the direction that resonates with your life path in this lifetime.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. I knew when I was little I had a lot of gifts. and I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to use them all. And so it's interesting because my life, like this is one of my joys. I do this because I love meeting people and I
Mhm.
love having these amazing conversations. And then I share them with my listeners. That is a joy that I have. I also love
Yes.
baking. I love cooking. I love
Yeah.
swimming. I love hiking. I love writing. I like all these different aspects. I love helping animals, like all these different things. So there's not just one facet of me. It's like
Yes.
what is the next thing that wants to come through me that brings me joy? I had to stop
Exactly.
myself because I'm in between places. So I'm like, my habit is to bake for Christmas.
Mhm.
I actually caught myself reaching for the gluten-free stuff yesterday. I'm like, am I really going to have time to bake? No, I'm not really. So I'll get like a brownie mix that will satisfy the baking part because I
Yep.
can, but I'm not actually going to make cookies, which is like, I'm not making cookies, but that's a program, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
there's cookies, but they have
Gotta
to
be
be
this.
sugar-free, dairy-free now, which is the whole thing.
It's gotta be this. Okay, that's really cool. For me, I just give me the gluten. Give me the, I'm gonna take the straight up sugar and the gluten and have a nice day. For me, everyone's so different. Some people thrive, and food is a great example.
Mhm.
I'll get a lot of people that ask me like, how should I eat if I want to be intuitive? And if you can find that right pattern for your energetic system,
Mhm.
not what your friend's doing or what somebody else said, but try a bunch of different things, you will energetically feel better or worse,
Mhm.
right? So some people actually feel better consuming animal products. Some people feel better not consuming animal products, and there's also like your heart around it too, like what's important to you. Um, Everyone's so different with
Yeah.
that.
And mine
Um,
changes like per day. Sometimes I'm like, or weeks, I'll be plant-based and all of a sudden I'll need a filet mignon. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't
yeah.
understand. It's just like whatever my body needs in that moment and giving
Hmm.
myself permission to hear it.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's living in that space of, I know it's dinner time and I know I should have a balanced meal or whatever, but those goldfish look great and that's all I want. And, I'm not promoting like
Oh,
eating
but that's what I
unhealthy.
did. I did something like that last night. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat this. Okay, I'm gonna eat this
Yeah.
tonight.
And then there's a day that you're like, I can't get enough food.
Right.
Like I need two bananas and, double up on this. And then
Mhm.
there's days where you just don't feel like it. So
Right.
following our instincts is something that's been lost.
Mhm.
And knowing where to be, when to be, what to consume, what not to consume, what to, how to spend our time is big. I used to work in a very busy office structure,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that was back in the day. I now know what I was doing, but I didn't know I was doing it at the time, is that when I would get overwhelmed, I would literally get out of my office chair and lay on my back on the ground and stare at the ceiling. And at the time, I told myself, oh, I'm looking at a different perspective. So it's giving me a break from the computer. But the truth is, that's how I disconnected and reconnected with myself.
Mhm.
And so we have to listen to those things, which can be hard to do in a very organized society.
I was doing this summer. There were two beautiful lawns and parks down in Weed, and me and my two friends, my sisters, I'd be like, okay, it's time to ground. And they'd be
Yeah.
like, what? And I want to be there for like 2, 3 hours because it feels
Mhm.
so good. And they're like, yeah, it's been 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, no, we just got here.
I don't want to
I'm
go.
like, no, 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 no. Because like for me, that's my reset is like laying
Yes.
on the ground for like and watching clouds and like hours. I don't know why hours, but hours feels really good. And
Yes.
and so when I get to do that, I am completely different because I'm
Yes.
completely reconnected and quiet and grounded and just present with the earth.
Hmm.
And then I don't have the chatter that doesn't matter how long you meditate, you're still gonna have chatter. Just what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I struggled with the end goal on that one. When I first opened up, I was like, oh, I need to meditate in lotus position with candles and silence in my head for 60 minutes, and then I will have achieved something. And I'm telling you right now,
Oh,
Sophia, I still have not achieved that.
uh-huh.
I still haven't achieved that. And so the goal setting is great,
Mhm.
but then coming back to where you are right now and what works intuitively for you in this moment.
Right.
And if that's 3 hours on the ground next to the cedar tree, that's 3. That's exactly what you need.
Right.
So when we can take little steps in our lives, because I know I know a lot of people are listening, because I've had this too, where I've heard someone say this in the past and I've gone, oh, well, that's great for you. But for me, I got 3 kids. I got it, and so, we
Right.
really have many times created a life that is a very high stress life. This is
Mhm.
a very natural pattern. And the
Mhm.
goal is not to completely change that life. The goal is to start today taking one step
Mhm.
toward adjusting that life, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
definitely.
that's the biggest thing that I learned, because
Uh,
I going all in, you just disappoint yourself over and over and over again.
I know. Oh, I know. When I graduated, I see my grandma who's in memory care, 90 something, and I come out, Grandma. She still recognizes me, so that's a good thing. I said, Grandma, I don't know if you remember this, but I started college like 14 years ago and I finally have a PhD. And she's like, okay, where are my grandkids? And I was like,
She's like, okay, thanks for doing that. Now, if you could get on this other
yeah, I
thing.
was like, oh, wow. Talk about like disconnect there. Cause like her
Mhm.
husband, my grandfather wanted to be a doctor. I didn't want to cut anyone open. So I'm like, okay, what can I study long enough that I can handle, get a PhD? History for some reason, studying people living in different time periods, not dates and battles. Um, So I'm like, okay, I gained 100 pounds for this. I did it though. I did it. I actually tortured myself enough to actually get this goal that I thought my grandfather wanted me to have. And she's like, yeah, where are my grandkids? I'm like, why did I just torture myself?
Yep.
Why? But
Yeah.
that's what we do when we follow those programs instead of our intuition.
Yeah. And no one is sitting down with us when we're 8 years old and saying, hey, you could have this great blissful life where you're happy and you follow your heart and your intuition, or you could listen to all of the training that's around you and dive into personal programming. This is not like a choice thing.
Wouldn't it be
This is a
amazing if it
very
was?
natural part of being human. Is
It
that
was
you reach that point where you look back and go, there is a choice, but we don't figure out the choice usually until later.
right, right. But it would be really cool to go into schoolrooms with 8-year-olds.
Wouldn't it?
It would be awesome.
Okay, here's the deal. I think that would make for very interesting parent-teacher conferences.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, I understand it. Wherever you land, there is a level of really needing to be able to adjust and work with and fit into that culture for the highest good of, everything involved. But
Mhm.
at some point, if you're one of those that have not followed the thing that really speaks to your soul, at some point you're going to feel it and you're going to know, I need to make some changes.
Yep.
I really need to make some changes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's when I turned 50 and I was like, what am I doing with my life? I mean, I was doing things that I loved, but
Yeah.
then I shifted, so I didn't love them anymore, which is
Yeah.
all fine. And that's when I was like, oh, I'll start doing body talk. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn quantum physics through a healing modality. That sounds easy, said no one ever.
Exactly.
But that's what
Exactly.
that was my next step for my soul. That was the doctor I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't exist when I knew I was going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So it was just divine timing for when I needed it. And everything else is beautiful because I wouldn't be doing a podcast if I hadn't been a voiceover talent.
Exactly.
So like I'm grateful because now I know the recording equipment and all the things and it's just magical. So, there's no wrong steps. There's another thing too, is like if it takes you a long time to figure out where you're going to be or what your life passion is, it's okay because every step is going to just enhance you in some way. There's no wrong
Absolutely.
turns.
There's no wrong steps. There's bad days.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
you're right. But there's no wrong turns.
Right.
There's no wrong turns. There's things that we can look back on and wish, but if we can take steps in the right direction for our soul, and then also carve out a couple times a year just a reflection time where we
Mhm.
look back and we go, where was I and where am I today? That really helps center us into, okay, this is where we want to be, and seeing it and finding avenues and being able to witness others living that. It's not about doing it the way that they're doing it, but it's about giving yourself the permission
Yeah.
to start moving in that direction for yourself as well intuitively. And at my root, at my core, my spirit is a goofy person. I mean, I am just like it, animated, I think is the nice word that a lot of people use if I get too right. But I'm very, very goofy. And I remember being very restrained, very proper, and very all of that. And I was at a Barnes and Noble, and a gentleman walked up in a penguin costume with a book and an actual fish. This fish was like 2 feet long, and then slapped it up on the counter and then did some silly dance. This was like before everyone was like on, social media. This
Yeah.
was before smartphones.
That's
And I
awesome.
just watched him, and he made the woman laugh, and then he took the fish, and then, however it unfolded, I just remember walking to my car going, well, if he can express himself like that, I can too,
Yeah.
you know? And
I love
I'm
that.
glad that there's only particular people in my yellow car. This is going in the right direction. This is, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And it's a journey.
It is, but seeing there's a guy in Portland when I moved there who he had this van and he had to fix brass statue heads to it. And then he
Yeah.
wore a monkey suit and he'd drive around downtown and he'd stop at different places, get out, play music and dance.
Yep.
And that was his thing. And like he did it to bring people joy. And I'm like, I love you for that because like that's a thing. And there was the unicycle bagpipe playing guy
Yep.
that he played Darth Vader for and wore a Darth Vader. I mean, it was a whole thing. And I watched him once. I'm like, okay, that takes a lot of coordination. You actually practice that. That's not like something you do whimsically. You can't ride a unicycle and play a bagpipe at the same time just for the fun of it. You actually practice that. That's a skill that you have. And I'm so impressed that you've actually channeled it into something that brings other people joy.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactly.
he's the only person I know that doesn't play like the normal bagpipe songs.
Yeah. Exactly. This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. And I cover some of this, like stepping out of your comfort zone and into your spirit. I cover some of that in the courses that I teach. And I remember years ago, we would do seasonal camping at this really big campground. Like we're talking 300 RVs, right?
Nice.
Yeah, and the kids thrived. It was great. One weekend every summer was pirate weekend. Now I got a pirate thing. I do. Like I just love the whole and Disney pirate. Okay, not like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
not like current today pirate.
Right, right, right.
Um, but I was like pirate weekend. We would set up these cannons that you could shoot water balloons. I would dress up from head to toe. I had a golf cart that I draped in brown tarps and I turned it into a little mini ship.
Ha!
Like it was the most fun weekend. And I remember taking a picture of me on that little mini ship with my water gun. And I took a picture and I sent it to my current students who
Uh-huh.
were going through that part of the course of like, go ahead and step out of your comfort zone. And I remember one of my students messaged me back right away and she's like, way to set the bar, Bo. I'm trying to have courage to just pay it forward at a gas station and you're doing this. And I just laughed. I was like, I adore
Oh,
you.
God, I
So
love that. That's so beautiful because you're
it's
just
it's
following
about
that
it's
joy.
it's about having fun.
Oh,
It
yeah. I
really.
remember going to the Oregon Fair once and it was like too soon from the, well, not too soon from the East Coast, but I still had more of the East Coast in me than not. And
Yep.
I'm seeing these women walk around with painted breasts, and I'm like, not my comfort zone. But I really appreciate the innocence of allowing yourself to like hang out and paint your breasts. It was just
Yeah.
like that's a little too not there yet.
Not there yet. Not there yet. Now, but enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
But enjoyable. I mean, Portland has I think it was Portland, yeah. They have the pumpkin races in the river where they hollow out
Yeah.
giant pumpkins and dress up in costume and paddle down the river in a race. Like so
And they have a
it's
mermaid weekend
all
too. I mean,
exactly. It's and
yeah.
then I have a friend whose passion is bringing back to life very old paintings,
Oh, I love
right?
that.
So while I'm going to sign up for the pumpkin race,
Mhm.
she's going to sit in a quiet room with classical music and bring a painting back to life. We have to start acknowledging that everyone's got their thing and we
Mhm.
got to allow people the space to find it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
I love that. I love that. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. You're such a joy.
Well, I'm glad you had me on. I appreciate this.
I really appreciate you. I just love the perspective you bring and the lightness you bring and the permission you're sharing with others to open themselves up to finding what makes them tick.
Finding what makes them tick. There it is. Yep.
Because we all have that spark, that divine spark. I mean, okay, we're all source, right? So
Yes.
it comes through us to experience different aspects of itself.
Yeah.
So we can't all be the same because that would be kind of boring.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be really boring.
So like, okay, I get to do X, Y, and Z. You get to do double Z, Y, A, and
Mhm.
everybody gets their own things. So that's that unification awareness with the totality of all
Mm-hmm.
is the magic.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And people will ask me the question, well, what about the person that's not going to open up spiritual, or they're this, or they're, skeptic, or they're against, or it's a hate. I get it. And you
Mhm,
know how I process my own journey through that is to recognize and honor everyone has their role.
mhm,
And on a really bad day, the thing that helps me to say is because I might run into somebody who has a role here on earth that is so not in my vibe.
mhm, mhm,
But the second I acknowledge that they are doing a very good job playing their role,
mhm.
then I reset into understanding why we are all here.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful perspective shift because otherwise that judgment comes in and I mean we all start out with well, we all start out beautiful and innocent and divine and then we get the judgment coming in
Yep.
and the judgment's all about self because that's what we've been programmed with and to try to like step back from that deep level of programming which is all tied up to separation and that whole illusion. I'm not dismissing the judgment because that's a real thing for a lot of people to work through. But as you unwind those layers and you like give yourself permission to see the fun and the playfulness that others experience, then you can give yourself permission to love that aspect of yourself too.
Exactly. Exactly. And even better, when you start to see either joy or love in others and navigate toward those and away from those that are playing some of the darker roles,
Mhm,
then you find your people. And when
mhm,
you find your people, you can start to heal some of the wounds. You can start to unprogram some of the programming. You can start to move the needle away from, in some people's cases, very difficult situations.
yeah.
Takes time. Just got to
Mhm,
love yourself through it.
mhm, mhm. Compassion is really big. I
It
remember
is.
a few years ago, I was like, how do I be more compassionate? Because I and I got just be more compassionate. I'm like, that's not helpful. Like,
Just do this.
just but
Okay.
how? And they're like, you'll just like tune in, ask yourself, like ask yourself, what would be more compassionate for myself in this moment? Like giving myself a hug, or I don't know, grounding, or crying and not judging myself for it, or whatever it is. That's the
Yeah.
more compassionate thing. And it's within each moment. But like when you get that kind of like kind of snarky answer, it's because you're just being guided to go within.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I had a really wise man say to me once, you can feel the feelings, you just don't have to stay in them.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, did you give me permission to just get totally bent out of shape in traffic? And he was like, yeah, yeah. But at some point, you got to realize you're not still in traffic. So,
Yeah.
allow it to move through. And I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, I got it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because like, whew, those feelings, they just want to be felt.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think that sometimes we can lose, sometimes it's a balance. I'll say it this way. It's a balance between human and spiritual. If it was supposed to be all spiritual, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
So it's a balance between human and spiritual. And I've had students over the years come to me and say, I don't know, my intuition, where is it? Where'd it go? I had it, I was using it, and now it's gone. And my first question is, what's going on in your human life?
Yeah.
Because are you going through a marriage, a divorce, a wedding, empty nest? Something's going on in your human life that the balance is tipped and you're very focused on the human. And you know what? That's okay. When your human life starts to calm back down again, you'll rebalance into spiritual. Same is true on the other side. If people get completely lost in spiritual and like lose, like let go of all of the aspects of being human, that's out of balance as well. So
Right.
balanced spirituality is where we're going to reach the highest of highs and have the most ease in our lows.
Yep. I concur.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. I want to thank you so much for this amazing, beautiful, high vibrational, incredible content today. This was a beautiful, amazing conversation.
It was a great conversation. Thank you. It's like this wrapped up my day perfectly.
Ooh,
I love this. Thank
I
you.
do too. I do too. It didn't even feel, I don't know, it just felt so easeful and so beautiful. And I'm just so grateful.
Yes.
And
Thank
I
you
have
for
one
having
more
me.
question,
Yes.
a really tough question. How do
Okay.
people find you?
Oh, I usually do a really good job at keeping everything on my website. So thesagemethod.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And everything's really there. It's the easiest way to get started. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you for having me on.
You're so grateful. I'm so grateful, and you're so grateful, and we're so grateful.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Can you help me redefine truth and preservation of our soul shine? I can feel it, yours and mine. Close your eyes and witness it inside. In your bones, you will know. Trust and let go.